From the far reaches of the Milky Way galaxy, it's Retro Nerd Girl with a film review for you. Today, I'll be reviewing the movie Car Wash, released in 1976. The synopsis is, this features the happenings in and around the deluxe car wash in Los Angeles in the 1970s. The pacing, at an hour and 37 minutes, it's pretty good. The time goes by so quickly. The story was written by Joel Schumacher and was originally intended to be a Broadway musical, which makes sense because the movie is driven by the music featured in it. The film takes place during a 10-hour period over the course of a day of work for the employees of the deluxe car wash in Los Angeles in the 1970s and shot in chronological order of the day. The story breaks up into several ongoing storylines concerning the employer, employees, patrons, and visitors at the car wash as the camera follows the workday, however trivial, mundane, or even at times exciting. The story itself is not sizzling with intrigue, definitely not unique, but told in a way that feels raw and authentic and relatable. Almost like the filmmakers were gossiping around the water cooler and telling stories about what was happening. You could even say that it feels like a dramatization of a documentary. Now, the challenge in the story. The challenge is not as cut and dry as most other films where there is a focus on one character, but instead there's a focus on the occurrences that make up a day of work, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Now, the empathy for the characters in this film is spread out. You really never get too attached to any one character, but you still care for them. You root for them, and you definitely don't want anyone to get hurt because they feel like real characters that one might meet in real life. I suppose that is what endears me to these characters. The car wash is owned by Mr. B. Barrow. He cheats on his wife with his cashier, Marcia, and does not always listen to his staff's issues. That doesn't sound like a likable person. However, he is trying to make the best decisions for his company, and it seems as if he is falling behind. He's not the greedy archetype counting how much money he's making off the backs of his laborers, but he is in poor health and fighting to keep his personal hand car washing business from going under. If not for him, I was rooting for him to succeed just to keep his employees working. The staff are mainly a fun-loving group that uses music to inspire their work throughout the day. At one point in the film, Mr. B comically turns off the radio to a classic channel as a demonstration to show how important it is to his team. Besides just working at the car wash, many of them are working on creating a better life for themselves, making big life decisions, and some of them are just getting by. Lindy is going to beautician school at night to possibly turn it into a career doing something he loves. Lloyd and Floyd, I call them the twins, have a dance act and they are up for an audition that very night. The film never lets you know if they got the gig. It's all a mystery once they leave the car wash, and it leaves you to wonder. Goody and Chuco are two fun-loving guys up to pranks and general shenanigans. Chuco in particular has a crush on the cashier at the car wash. Geronimo is the ladies' man who is a Vietnam veteran. Hippo is a lonely guy with a radio, and his name is a nickname or slur referring to his larger size. He doesn't seem bothered by it, always presenting a generally happy demeanor. Scruggs is a stressed-out guy who is freaking out because he went out the night before and caught an STD from a stranger. His wife or girlfriend, Charlene, showed up at the car wash and was naturally upset at him, to say it mildly. Sly is a numbers guy collecting bets throughout the day. You know, a little side hustle business off the books. TC is a fun-loving guy with dreams of being a superhero, The Fly, which he created, and he's drawn many pictures of. He hopes to get a second chance with the gorgeous girl who works at the diner across the street from the car wash, Mona. It's unrequited, so this makes his pursuit of her a little cringy at times. He eventually comes up with an endearing plan of winning concert tickets to take her on a nice date. The things we do for a crush. Hey, it works. The owner's son, Erwin, carries around a copy of quotations from a Chinese communist revolutionary and wears an Andy Warhol silkscreen portrait on a t-shirt. Erwin wants to hang out with the workers and inspire revolution while taking breaks to go smoke pot in the bathroom. He means well, but he's too young to know about real life just yet. And pretty much all the characters, including his dad, are patiently waiting for him to do just that, grow up. One interesting character is Abdullah, who rains on everyone's parade with his gloom and doom, but his depth is much more than just his unpleasantness. On his break from killing everyone's joy, you might find him passionately playing the saxophone in the locker room, hinting at a dream he has deemed as lost. He's going through an identity crisis, changing his name from Dwayne to Abdullah. He's angry and he wants to pull the veils off the world. When Rich Daddy, a local evangelist who cons the car wash, nearly everyone is hypnotized by him, but it is Abdullah that calls him out. Unfortunately, that turns into a bust, and so does his employment at the car wash, as Mr. B feels pushed into a corner to fire Abdullah after a series of unexplained absences. The film doesn't have a star or a lead actor, but if we were to say that there was one, I think some people would say it would be Abdullah, but I would say that it would be Lonnie, because he is our hero in the film. He is the one that opens and closes the car wash, so we can say that the story begins and ends with him. Lonnie is an ex-con and a father who has worked at the car wash for a year and proven himself to be a leader among the workers. He has some big ideas to improve the car wash, but he keeps getting the cold shoulder from Mr. B, and that makes him feel as if he is on a hamster wheel. He's a great guy, trying to do the right thing with dignity, and through him we see the struggle is real to carve out a living for himself as a provider for his family and to raise his kids with good moral values. He is our moral center in the film. There are 3 main female characters in the film, and all of them have names with the letter M. Marcia, Marlene, and Mona. They are also all wanting and waiting for a counterpart to rescue them from their lives. Nothing's wrong with that, but it's part of the frustration they seem to feel trapped by. Marcia is so adorable and goofy at the same time. I think I liked her the most immediately because she is trying to improve herself through her appearance. It's unfortunate that her potential is lost on Mr. B, being a borrowed man. He simply doesn't have the time or the energy to give her the attention and love that she so desperately wants. As a result, she has accepted a substandard life. When a hot, flirty customer by the name of Kenny strolls into the car wash asking her out on a date, I felt so happy for her. Of course, he seemed like a playboy, but at least she's branching out. Marlene is a fascinating character that inspires so much cringe in the story. First, she skips her cab fare, drinks all day, and does something very private with Hippo as trade for his prized radio. Although her actions are at times repulsive, we discover that her lack of conformity with society norms is a desperate cry for romantic love. She even asks Daddy Rich to see if he can help her find love. She is a hopeless romantic, and we all know that the likelihood of Marlene finding the love that she's dreaming of in this film is very, very slim because of her lifestyle and ethics. Somehow she is likable, sad, but likable. Mona is TC's love interest who wants a boyfriend who is on a career track. That would be fine, except she herself doesn't seem to have ambition of her own, because the film makes sure to note that she arrives late every single day to work. She is another idealistic dreamer. Eventually, she settles on going out on a date with TC, and it leaves their fate uncertain. TC may be the man that she's looking for after all, because he is inspired by her to do things outside his comfort zone. What an intriguing lot of characters. Even to this day, I've always wanted to know how these characters turned out. Did they make it? How did things work out for them? Now, the technical aspects. Technically, the film doesn't have anything very fancy to it. It's just shot simply as possible. Editing is pretty good. All of the DJ voices and most of the dialogue was recorded ADR since it was too loud to record on location. And you can tell because it sounds somewhat off, especially the dialogue for Marlene. I think it was a major problem for the film. I really enjoyed the natural environment of the streets of Los Angeles in the 1970s. I mean, look at the signs. Things like $1.49 for a sandwich. Wow, this is a wonderful time capsule. I just love this because as a kid I was too young to really experience this world as it was, sheltered within my family household, thank goodness. But as the days went, I definitely remember the sights and the smells of the sound and the bustling of every day that this film revealed through the visuals. Even though this was shot in Los Angeles, I grew up in New York. There's a very strong similarity to the worlds, being that it was shot in the 70s. That world is wonderfully encapsulated here. The movie's title song, Car Wash by Rose Royce, was a #1 chart-topping hit and one of the biggest selling singles of the 1970s disco music era. I don't know what it is about the song, but it just starts me dancing every single time I hear it. The lyrics meaningfully sums up the daily sentiments of those with grind jobs. Also, songs like I Want to Get Next to You and I'm Going Down were among the top 10 on the U.S. music charts. The film won a Grammy Award for Best Score, Soundtrack Album, and also won a Best Music Award and the Technical Grand Prize at the 1977 Cannes Film Festival. Performances. This was an ensemble film with so many appearances and story threads that the focus was on each actor to seize their moment to stand out. If there could be any complaint, it would be that the dialogue and voiceover held it back from being even better. They were giving 110%. Antonio Vargas playing Lindy was a different kind of character for the actor, which I thought he did excellently. Richard Pryor and George Carlin were both prominently featured on the film's poster. However, both had small roles. I wish there were more on-screen time for them. However, as little as they were used brilliantly. Richard Pryor plays Daddy Rich, the head evangelist of the Church of Divine Economic Spirituality. Oh, very, very funny. And the Pointer Sisters played the Wilson sisters to accompany Daddy Rich, lending their singing talents to the film. George Carlin plays the taxi driver looking for the blonde version of Marlene to collect his fare. George wrote his own dialogue for the scenes, and he was well placed in the film, giving it just enough comedy without stopping everything. Franklin Ajay was quite memorable as TC, and who could forget Bill Duke's performance as Abdullah? Garrett Morris of Saturday Night Live fame plays Slide, which sadly didn't make much of an impact in the film. I wish we could have had more time with him on screen. Erwin Corey appropriately played the Mad Bomber. Tim Thomerson makes a cameo as Marcia's date. Lorraine Gary also makes a cameo as a stressed-out Beverly Hills mom with a very sick young boy. The scene is hilarious. Danny DeVito and Brooke Adams were to be in the film, and they would have played Joe and Terry, the owners of a food stand called Big Joe's Doghouse, which was located right next to the car wash. Sadly, nearly all of their scenes were deleted. Now, the enjoyment. I love the fact that when the workday is done, all of the employees are going home and consumed with their own issues. TC is excited for his concert tickets and the possibility of going out with Mona. The twins are excited about their audition. Scruggs is completely distraught about being kicked out of his home and facing the very real consequences of his infidelity. Lindy is off to beauty school to fix his highlights. It feels really real to see all of these stories collide at the car wash and then branch out again as they continue their personal lives. When Lonnie is closing up the car wash, it's a surprise that Abdullah holds him up for the money that was earned that day with a gun. At first you think, dang, this is going to end up being really bad, and you pray that he does not shoot Lonnie because he's such a good guy. But somehow Lonnie is able to talk Abdullah down. And Abdullah's monologue really helps you to understand a little bit more about how he feels. A little lost and alone, trying to control his rage about the unfairness he feels in his life. At first I thought it was going to go to this awful kind of tragic ending that would upset me. But it concludes with a nice finish, as you would any day, where there is still more work to be done, things to be discussed, and situations to work on resolving. Fade to black, and then the narrator reads off all of the players in the film as if it were a theater performance. As the theme song plays, it just leaves you with a nice feeling. Car Wash was not wildly successful, but it garnered many fans over the years from the many late-night television airings it had. I remember seeing this as a child on TV for years and years, and every time it came on, I just loved it so much. Some of the language was edited out of TV, so watching the theatrical release was a little shocking to me. But while watching this, one must take in consideration of the vernacular of 1976. It's a lot different than ours today. To be honest, it's been years since the last time I watched it, and after seeing it recently, I still feel the same. It's a fun movie. This is a time capsule for those who remember the 70s and those wanting to understand the time period a little bit better. I consider this film to be a great commentary about the social environment and concerns of the working class with a timeless heart. You could have a great 70s marathon party with this film. Thank God It's Friday, released in 1978, and Saturday Night Fever, released in 1977. Get yourself a pair of your highest platform shoes you can find, bell bottoms, and an afro wig, and just imagine what it was like to be able to buy a sandwich for $1.49 in 1976. Fun times, everybody. Fun times. My rating is a 7.9. Well, that sums up my review. I hoped you liked it, and if you did, I have got over 100 of these videos, so go on and browse the channel to see more reviews from me like this. Subscribe if you haven't done so already, and hit the bell icon to be the very first to be notified of my next video. This is Retro Nerd Girl signing off. Take care, movie lovers. I'm off to my next review.